Canada falls quite a way short of that. About 1.37% only of Canada's overall economy goes to defence. That is set to increase quite a bit next year by 27%, but it will still fall short of that 2% magic number and is forecasted to remain short of that number all the way to 2030, where it will still only be at 1.76% according to projections of the Canadian government. That is increasingly an issue for Canada, where a minority of countries now find themselves in a position of being unable to say that they either have met 2% or have a concrete plan to do so. And Canada is really the only big NATO member that has not been able to make such a commitment. And at the same time, we've seen other countries pushing for the threshold to go even higher. Britain, for example, suggesting that it should go to 2.5%. And some countries in Eastern Europe floating even larger numbers. Of course, this summit also happens in the wake of two very important European elections. A huge relief for NATO coming out of the result in the French election. National Rally, the far-right party that placed third in the French election and was expected perhaps to place first, is seen as very hostile to the alliance. It's a party that is seen as close to Russia, has taken loans from Russian banks in the past to pay for its election campaigns. So it was, although it didn't in its platform call for the abolition of NATO or for France's exit from NATO, it was certainly seen as a threat to NATO. So that result is reassuring. The new British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, is also expected to be on hand. Britain is seen as a point of stability in NATO, where all parties across the spectrum support the alliance. But the great concern, of course, hanging over this summit is the upcoming US election, with President Donald Trump in the lead, a candidate who has repeatedly denigrated NATO or spoken about changing the terms of NATO, who's questioned NATO's Article 5, which is its mutual defense commitment that each member will step up to defend any other member in the event of war. So that is really the big sort of threat hanging over this summit. But we expect the summit to set that aside and focus on reaching agreement among the governments that are elected today and in power today on supporting Ukraine at a very difficult time in that war and trying to keep building the alliance without looking at events that will ultimately be controlled by voters in America and Europe.
All right,